Imagine if you were an entire neighborhood, or better yet, let's say that you are a city. So if I would say I was a city, it would be Toussaint City, or the city of Toussaint, if we're in France or Canada. And that city, that particular city, is in a disagreement about something, the way that they've been treated, the way that the city of Toussaint has been treated, or the city of you has been treated. And they say, you know what, I think this is not working for us. This really isn't, we don't like this treatment from over there. So we gotta draw a hard line. We gotta draw a healthy boundary. And that healthy boundary is going to look probably a little different than you would think it would be personally. However, it operates the same. So when we talk about healthy boundaries, I want you to start getting familiar with institutionalized treatment and also how communities respond to it. Because what you'll see between all of this, and the purpose of this video is to get you clarity on your place in your community as well as your place in yourself. When we draw a healthy boundary, we're saying, all right, I am not going to conspire with what's going on here. And also, if it happens again, I'm gonna have to take action on my behalf in another direction or against it. It depends. A healthy boundary can be seen, it's relative. It can be seen differently by different people. However, a healthy boundary that we've kind of established here on this channel it's kind of under the terms of intervention. It's if you use, or if you are drunk, or if you are acting violent, or if you are yelling, I'm gonna remove myself from the situation. I'm gonna be gone. I'm not gonna be present where there is unhealthy activity occurring. So when we look at a city and we see something in the likes of, I live in Minneapolis, so in 2020, when the police murdered George Floyd, what happened was the city said, well, we don't stand for this. We don't like this at all. And we're not even going to wait for you to tell us what happened because we saw it with our own eyes. And this is how we feel about it. And so even if it was different rhetoric or a narrative that ran up against what people thought they saw or what they actually saw, nobody cared. We're going to draw a healthy boundary right now. We're going to draw a boundary regardless of what we hear from the courts, what we hear from the officials. The big thing with drawing a healthy boundary is that before it's even drawn, somebody who's trying to emotionally manipulate you into a situation will try to tell you otherwise, that thing never happened. They never said that to you. They didn't mean it like that. And what it turns into, overused term, gaslighting, I understand, but also it really gets at trying to strip you of your authentic reaction or your authentic emotion or your just response to it. So in a healthy relationship, somebody has a reaction to something. Okay, let's talk about that. It's not trying to, it's not trying to mitigate how you feel, or it's not trying to reduce how you feel or recourse it or redirect it. It's essentially, well, let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. It happened. Yeah, I said that thing and you said that thing. Let's get after why that happened. And when you're able to deal with what's happening as opposed to obfuscate what's happening or just go around what's happening, you're able to actually get through things. And as a city, and you as a city, when you're able to get through something, you're gonna be better on the other end of it. You're gonna be a more aware, more skilled, more emotionally, a higher EQ person. Oh, there goes the train again. You're gonna have a higher EQ. You're going to be able to have more personable skills. And I think one of the most valuable things of all of it is you're gonna know yourself better. That's a really big thing. I remember that one scene in The Matrix that said, you don't know anybody until you fought them. That goes a little far, doesn't mean you need to fight everybody, but you don't really know yourself until you've been in some exigent circumstances. Not to say that you need to be in exigent circumstances, but until you've come up against some adversarial or adversarial circumstances or adversity, you don't really learn much about yourself, right? So imagine you are a city, and to get clarity on how a healthy boundary works is the first thing you need to understand. It's the one of three to take away from this video. And I really did not like this when I heard this from my therapist when we first started doing therapy, was you're always in a relationship with everything. Non-duality. You're always in a relationship with everything. Even when you have a breakup, you're still in a relationship with that person. It's just the circumstances have changed, or the proximity has changed, whatever that means. It's still a relationship, it's just a different relationship. And when you understand that you're in relationship to everything, what happens on the other side of the globe does affect you, because you're a part of the globe. There's no separation here. There's no separation. We can get into another video about non-duality, but you're in a relationship with everything. So when you look at yourself as a city, you're looking at everything. You're looking at the parks, the libraries, the plumbing, the construction, the urban planning, the city council, the reps, the senators that are there. You're looking at the county commissioner who's presiding over the county. Your city's a part of that county. You're looking at the governor who's presiding over your city and many other cities. And all of it is interconnected to an extent. And so when you look at yourself as a city and you see something happen, like maybe state-sanctioned violence, or maybe redlining, or maybe some form of defunding, or financial crisis, you see how it's all connected. Everything is in a relationship with one another, regardless of what it looks like. And that is the foundational, factual base of a city, of you. It's all interconnected. That's why when you draw a healthy boundary, you're saying this relationship, even though we're in a relationship regardless, it's going to change if you make that move. If you do that thing, then I'm going to have to change the relationship that we have. That's all it really is. And when you say, I'm going to change the relationship, what you're saying is, I'm going to alter my proximity, or I'm going to change the terms of engagement or the terms of relationship, like right now. That's all that's going to happen. So it really is saying, when you look at a city, I think we can look at terms of, there was a community center here in Minneapolis, and a lot of indigenous neighbors wanted that community center to stay there, because if the city knocked it down, a bunch of arsenic would go up into the air. And so they said, look, we don't want to deal with that. We've already dealt with enough of it. So let's just leave the building there, turn it into a community center, and we'll find out some other better ways of utilizing the space rather than knocking it down, turning it into an urban city works, I think it's called, public works facility, having a bunch of arsenic go up into the air, and then a bunch of trucks come in and out where there's a bunch of fumes going in and out. We just don't want the pollution. And the city said, now we're going to do it. So the community said, okay, bet. The community then turned up to every city council meeting, I believe, every city planning meeting, even pit themselves at the site, put their bodies in harm and danger to protest the demo of the building. And that was the relationship. The relationship changed. It changed because no action was not an option. Does that make sense? No action was no longer an option. So if this treatment persisted, we got to take action. We have to. Everything that led up to 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, there was a lot of things that happened, but it was off camera, or it was explained away, or whatever it was. And it was able to pacify people enough to not want to get out into the street and say anything, until you had something like May 25th, 2020, where it was like, well, now we have to take action. No action was not an option. And this is for regardless of how you feel of what happened on May 25th, 2020, or your partisanship, or how you feel about DEI or really anything. This is just what happened. So a healthy boundary many times is when no action is not an option. And you got to do it. And we talked about this again with the earlier video. The version of yourself that's had enough is the version that's going to change everything. So again, the first thing to realize is that everything is in relationship. And the second thing is, when you are a city and you're drawing a healthy boundary, proximity is not a choice. This is non-duality. Proximity is not a choice. You are in proximity with these people regardless. So you have to change the relationship. You might have a child with this person. You might be in a family with this person. You might be living in the same building as this person. Who knows? But the point being is that in a lot of situations, we can move far away from somebody and we can have proximity. However they affected us or whatever they've done is going to direct us to changing that relationship. So a healthy boundary within a city can say, I need this, I need the foundation to change. I need the infrastructure to change because this is not working. So in families, many times, this is probably the toughest part. It's, I know that I'm gonna see you at this dinner. I know that I'm gonna see you at this thing. And if this continues, we'll still be family, but I will not be at these things. I won't. And I've seen this happen many times where it's, you run up against, I believe, I don't want to call it entitlement, but it's taken for granted. I think we take family for granted a lot. Like they'll show up because they're family, or they'll be here because they're family. And in reality, nobody has to show up to any family function at all. They really don't. And when we take that for granted or we make that assumption like, oh yeah, they'll be here, the idea is that we start to not put in the work for the relationship that we should be putting in. We just take it for granted. So all of a sudden now it's in cruise control, right? We're just family. We're in a great relationship. We're in a good connection. We're friends, right? Which couldn't be further from the truth. You still have to water the plant, regardless of the familial connection or not. You still have to water the plant. I'll never forget, well, I did kind of forget this quote. I'll never forget this quote. Wait, I forgot it. It was something about maintaining friendships, and it was about essentially maintaining a friendship is like maintaining a garden. And you have to show up to it. You really got to be a part of it. You have to be involved. And that's another thing. When you have maltreatment going on, when you have somebody being mistreated in a relationship going on, or malpractice happening, or maladaptive coping mechanisms happening, which we'll get into another time, you essentially create a scenario where somebody is either going to take it or they're not. And they're going to continue to take it up until they don't. And when they don't, that's when they're saying, look, the infrastructure's got to change. Otherwise, I'm out of here. So for a city, a lot of people left the city. They said, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. This is crazy. The infighting, the outfighting, the police brutality, the racial disparity in economics, education, and law enforcement, it's too much. And so people ended up leaving the city. Now, wherever you are, there you are. I don't know what happened to those people, but the point being is that proximity is not a choice. You still are in another city where you're going to be dealing with that infrastructure and in a relationship with there. You're still in a relationship with here, but you don't have to deal with it as much because you moved away, but you're still in a relationship with it. And now you're in a closer relationship with a different city, but the whole point is you're dealing with another infrastructure. And if you run into a wall with that, then you just protest that, of course. But the point being is that you're going to be in an institution, you're going to be in a system at all times. You're going to be in a relationship at all times. How are you going to deal with that? How do you want your body and your space and your time to be contributed to that? Because with time, it is so important how we spend that with people and what we spend it on. Recently, I've been taking a big inventory on how I spend my time. And a lot of it has been doom scrolling, searching for the next story to talk about with this independent media company I'm with. Indepedia meant, yeah, that just went like flipped over. With this independent media company I'm with. And I found the relationship between me and doom scrolling, or me and social media, was not giving. I was spending more time on social media than I was writing and making the videos. Think about that. Usually, I just need half an article, and I can have the whole video done, and just put context to it. We can have it done then. I was spending more time reading just haunting story after sad story after more perplexing story after it leading on to the next, and the next, and the next, and it took more than it gave, and I couldn't give to people then. So there's that. But that being said, I had to stop it. So there came a version of me, and there will come a version of me down the line, where it's like, this is enough, we gotta change this. And proximity is not a choice with social media. You are always in proximity with social media. The question is, will you choose to give your time and attention to it? I think that's a big question everybody needs to think about. Proximity is not a choice to other humans or humanity or institutions or government. How you choose to interact with it is up to you. That's really up to you. But making an intentional choice is extremely important. Lastly, protest is a form of healthy boundary. And I removed the word peaceful because people really get that twisted. But protest is a form of healthy boundary because it's saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. And this is getting weird. Why are you still doing this? Why? That is the part. Because when I began to get into community organizing and just sustained community support, what I found was a lot of families and a lot of people who were done. They were already done. The whole ruse, the veneer of the veil of basically to protect and serve on the side of a police car was too far gone for them. They were like, I can never believe that, the way that I was treated. I worked with so many families whose loved ones had been taken by police, killed by police, but then lied upon, and then they were stalked by police afterwards. Now, this isn't to basically curve how you look at police, but the idea is that these things happen so many times, like in this relationship, right? That the line was gone, the trust is over. And to shovel any trust back into that institution would be an immediate means of self-harm and heightened hyper-codependency that would go beyond delusion. So for a lot of people, they had met the versions of themselves that would take no more and would never take it again and would only be staunch advocates for people that have been hurt by this institution. So, and there's a healthy way to grow from that as well, and also start to see well, how can we create growth within this community? Because when you draw a healthy boundary, protest is going to happen. It's just, protest is a part of a healthy boundary. It's saying enough is enough. I have to interrupt your convenience because you're not paying attention. If you stick around in a relationship and you take any kind of treatment that somebody will dole out to you, well, at what point are there any boundaries? At what point is there respect? At what point does the integrity go out the door? So when you're in a tandem with somebody or just in a healthy relationship, you're holding each other accountable at some point, right? You're saying, whoa, I don't think, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. Or, I think last time you did that's become a pattern. And I really think what could really up your game is, now this is where we get into a non-zero sum game where we're upping each other. We're when you win, I win. When I win, you win. So it's non-duality. It's again, looking at yourself as a city and getting clarity on how healthy boundaries work, because when you are understanding that you will no longer take a certain kind of treatment versus a community that will no longer take a certain kind of treatment, you understand where a healthy boundary comes into place and where intervention comes into place for something as big as a city or even a country or even an entire demographic, an entire ethnicity would say, hey, this is too much, man. We gotta stand our ground, or we just have to defend ourselves. And even in defending yourself, sometimes people can be gaslit and told that, whoa, you're being very violent. But the thing I really don't want you to lose sight of is, if you were a city, what would a healthy boundary look like for you? And then internally, what are things that you would start to give maintenance to? Or are there any people that are in charge in your city, that are mayor of your city or your city council, that are winning out, that you're like, man, I really wish we would make some different decisions here? I think that's so special to have, because when you look at city councils or neighborhood associations, you can see how hyper-local politics really affect everybody. And on a micro level, you can see how just tiny temptations or like intrusive thoughts or like past traumas really affect us. And they're just really coming into play, and they're having a seat at the table, and they're directing everything. But break it down to drawing a healthy boundary for yourself. And then how does that look outward, maybe to your nearest friend or family member, or just people that you know that it's kind of been enough. This is too much. This is way too much. And then how does that go out even further? So I hope you get a clear picture of what healthy boundaries look like, not only for you, but within your community and how you can be a part of it as well. And if you don't have a neighborhood association, if you do have a neighborhood association, please, just go to one meeting. It'll change the way you look at your entire neighborhood. All right, that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.